Welcome. Today we're going to talk about the basics of college admissions. We'll start with the timeline. In 9th and 10th grade, students just really start to explore both academics and extracurricular activities. It's an opportunity to see what they're really interested in before committing to a path for the next 4 years. In 10th grade, students will take the PSAT, and that will give them an idea of a baseline for the SAT that they'll likely take in 11th grade. They can also start to plan for college visits, which will primarily happen in 11th grade, starting in the fall and mostly in the spring. In the fall of 11th grade, students should start to research schools for their college list, casting a wide net and keeping an open mind. They should also start thinking about a plan for taking the SAT and ACT and consider taking test prep. In the spring of their 11th grade year, they should start to visit colleges doing official tours and start to think about who they're going to ask for their teacher recommendations, as well as what they might want to write for their college essays. By 12th grade, students should be finalizing their college list, doing information sessions for all the colleges that they're interested in, and also starting to fill out their common applications, the coalition application, and writing all of their college essays. There are 4 different types of decision plans. The 2 early admission decision plans are early action and early decision. Those are usually due around November 1st. Early action is non-binding, meaning if you apply early action, you are not obligated to attend that school. However, early decision is binding. So if you apply early decision, if you were admitted, you do need to attend. Regular decision deadlines are usually around January 1st, and those are also non-binding, as well as rolling admission. With rolling admission, you can apply and usually hear back from the school within 2 to 3 weeks. There are 3 different types of college applications. First, you have the Common App, which is the most common. Most colleges are on the Common App. Then you have the Coalition App. And then some schools will have their own application that students can access directly from the school's website. These are the different components of the college application. The most important factor will always be the student's grades. Some schools might consider test scores, the ACT or the SAT. They'll look at the rigor of the student's curriculum. They'll assess the extracurricular activities, any essays, teacher recommendations, and a counselor recommendation, and sometimes optional interviews and demonstrated interest. We're going to talk about all of these today. First, we'll start with the numbers. For grades, college admissions counselors really want to see an upwards trend throughout high school. That means your grades are progressively getting better from 9th grade on. They're also going to consider the rigor of your courses. Students should challenge themselves by enrolling in honors classes, AP, IB, and/or dual enrollment when possible. They may also consider test scores. Students typically will choose the SAT or the ACT, and sometimes take subject tests in a subject of their strength. When considering activities, in 9th grade, students should really be exploring and figuring out what they like the best. If possible, they should commit to one activity that they want to get really involved in. I also recommend that they start an activity resume to keep track of all the different activities throughout high school. In 10th grade, they should really start to take on some kind of leadership activity within one of their activities of choice. And then in 11th grade, if they can take that leadership up a next level and continue to build on the resume throughout high school. By 12th grade, they should be able to demonstrate uniqueness through their activities and really show that they've had commitment to certain activities throughout their 4 years. When considering the essays, every student will write a personal statement, which is 650 words, to submit to the Common App and/or the Coalition App. Students might also have supplemental essays, which the word count will vary. Some supplemental essays are as short as 1 word, and I've seen some up to 800 words. Some common topics include, why do you want to attend our school? Tell us about an extracurricular activity, or tell us how you've contributed to your community. Students will want to request 2 teacher recommendations. When they're considering what to submit to a teacher before the teacher writes a recommendation, I always recommend they submit a resume and/or a brag sheet, an example of all the different work they've done for that teacher throughout their time together, some information about their goals and interests for college, and finally, their college list. When choosing a teacher, students should select a teacher with whom they've had a good relationship, a teacher who potentially has taught them in a class in which they were successful, Sometimes it's also helpful to choose a teacher in a class where you weren't very successful, but you worked really, really hard. That teacher can attest to how hard you worked, even though the grade might not show that on your transcript. I recommend that students really choose a teacher from their junior year, maybe their senior year, but do keep in mind that by the time you apply to college, you'll only have about 1 or 2 months into your senior year for that teacher to talk about you. So junior year is definitely preferable. If that teacher has worked with you in a club or an activity or has taught a subject related to one of your future fields of study, even better. And I do recommend that students choose a teacher from the humanities side and then a teacher from the STEM side, the science and math side. There are a couple different types of interviews. It is important to know that interviews are usually optional and sometimes recommended. One type of interview is an alumni interview, which is an interview with an alum, and typically those are non-evaluative, meaning that colleges will not necessarily factor those into the decision of whether to admit the student or not. If it's an on-campus interview, it's typically with an admissions counselor, and those are typically evaluative, meaning they will factor into the decision about whether the student is admitted. And sometimes there's just not available. Some colleges do not offer interviews. If you do have an opportunity to interview, be sure to ask questions about the college, researching the colleges in advance by using any kind of information that you've received from the school and going to their website. Find out which type of interview you'll be preparing for, whether it's with an admissions counselor or with a student or an alum. Practice, practice, practice with a mock interview, and then dress appropriately. Finally, we're going to discuss demonstrated interest. Demonstrated interest is the degree to which you show a college that you're sincerely interested in attending their school. There are a few ways to demonstrate demonstrated interest. You can attend an official college tour, or an online webinar or an online tour, attend an info session at your school, or talk with an admissions counselor at their booth at a college fair, apply early action or early decision, do an interview, whether it's with an alum, a student, or an admissions counselor, speaking directly with an admissions counselor at an information session, a college fair, or via email, following the school on social media, and finally opening all emails from the school. They actually sometimes track that information. Those are all the different ways that a student can demonstrate interest. That's all I have for you today. Thanks so much.